How's it going, guys? It's your boy Kanji FPL and welcome back to the channel. On today's video, we're going to be going through my Game Week 33 team review as well as my Game Week 34 bench boost. Yes, I do have a chip active and it's probably unlike most of you where the template is kind of aiming towards a Game Week 37 bench boost, but I find myself in a position once again where I'm kind of going against the template, and that's why I love playing FPL. You know, there's always like the right way to play, but in FPL there is never really the right way to play. It's all about just putting yourself in a good position to maximize EV and get a little bit of positive variance to allow yourself to be number one. And now that Arsenal and Man City are both knocked out of the Champions League, that just means that their prime starting 11 should be getting maximum minutes in the Premier League because that will be their main focus. That will make the title race really, really interesting because Man City are only ahead of Liverpool and Arsenal by 2 points. And that is a very good thing for FPL because that means that the main 11s will be getting minutes in the Premier League. So I'm excited for the end of the season run for FPL and the Premier League as well. So let's jump right into my Game Week 33 team review. Let me take you back to Game Week 33. During the midweek, Manchester City are playing against Real Madrid in the first leg of the Champions League, and right at the end of the match, Foden pulls up with a knock. Pep notices this and subs him off immediately, and because of this, I knew he was going to be in jeopardy for the weekend because Foden has been the most relied upon Manchester City outfield attacker. I think he's played more minutes than anyone else, and you know what? They're playing against one of the worst teams, Luton, at Etihad, so why force Foden to play if he's carrying a knock? So because of this, I knew there was always going to be some sort of risk that Foden could be benched. Because Man City have so much depth, the most important thing for me to do was to wake up for the deadline and try to see if there was some early team news. By the way, just for context, I have to wake up at 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning because the deadline is at 6 a.m. in Toronto time. Plan A was going to be, if we hear that Foden was going to be out, I would do Foden to Bruno. Why Bruno Fernandes? Well, Bruno has picked up 5 returns in the last 7 weeks, and his fixtures were perfect. He had Bournemouth in Game Week 33, Sheffield United in Game Week 34, Crystal Palace in Game Week 35, I think Burnley in Game Week 36, and then a double game week in 37. And in every single double game week over the last 3 years, whenever Bruno has had a double, he has returned, always giving me 7+ points. So I had faith in Bruno. Now, because we got the news that Foden was actually going to start this game, I decided not to make that move. But if I did it, that would have been a +15. Plan B was built around Antoine Semenyo. Now, Semenyo was my differential. He was my star player. I actually really like him, but unfortunately, he picked up an injury in Game Week 33, so he was going to miss 33 as well as probably getting reduced minutes or even missing Game Week 34 as well. So I just thought having a differential in that position is just not smart, so I had to get rid of him, whether it was this week or next week. So I just thought my second plan, if we hear news that Foden was going to be out, was just maximize the upside of the Newcastle attack. Now, if you watched any of my other videos, and I'm referring to my Game Week 33 predictions video, I actually mentioned that I'm expecting Newcastle to go big against Spurs because I don't trust Spurs defensively. And I remembered last season that Newcastle absolutely smashed Spurs to the point where they had to reimburse some of the traveling fans from Spurs. So I remember how devastating Newcastle were that day, and I just thought in my mind that there was a chance that if I found out Foden was going to be out, I would be doing Anthony Gordon in for Foden as well as selling Semenyo to Isak, and that would have been a +30 move. +30, bro. Because we got the news that Foden was going to start, I didn't consider actually pulling the trigger on Plan A or Plan B because Foden was going to start. I mean, that is one of the best differentials playing against Luton at home. Foden has gotten a hat-trick multiple times this season. Why couldn't he do it again this weekend? But because we got the news he was going to start, I decided to just pull the trigger on probably the safest transfer, which was just Antoine Semenyo to Hakuna Mateta. So I'm glad that I brought Mateta in. You have to reconsider the identity of Crystal Palace because under Glasner, they're just more attacking than they used to be under Roy Hodgson. So Mateta's been getting the favorable starts and the favorable minutes, and he's been picking up a lot of chances. I think he also has around 5 returns in the last 7 weeks. So he's been very consistent, picking up a goal or an assist in every single fixture. Not explosive, but a ticker. And I just thought, as somebody priced at 5.0 that doubles in Game Week 34, which is when I'm likely to bench boost, he's a great option to bring in. So I just went for the safe move and I pulled the trigger on that. I did not anticipate starting Mateta this week at Anfield. That's crazy. So it's ridiculous the amount of poor variance I had. In fact, to add insult to injury, Foden was benched, so I got Mateta's 2-pointer at Anfield off the bench. He actually picked up 1.15 XG in this game. He could have scored, but Alisson made a wonderful save. On top of that, I actually did get a -2 off the bench as well for James Tarkowski because Nuri, who was pictured in the gym, and there was some positive news from the press conference. I was expecting him to play, so I thought he was going to be fit. But unfortunately, he wasn't ready, and so I got a -2 off the bench for Tarkowski and a +2 off the bench for Mateta, giving me 0 points from 2 spots off the bench. It's unbelievable. I'm just very disappointed. And sometimes you just play FPL and you find yourself in these positions where you ask yourself, am I just getting unlucky or am I just a bad manager? And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. So what I did is I went on to some of my season review tools that I use whenever I'm reviewing my season at the end of it, but I decided to look at it now. And what I noticed is that based on the EV that I've accumulated, based on the expected minutes in the model from the players that I picked so far this season, I should be ranked at around 82,000 in the world. But on top of that, I've actually nailed the minutes of the players that I picked in my team, so I should actually be ranked at around 36,000 in the world. Now that's crazy because I'm actually ranked at around 350k at this point. So I've just been getting such little positive variance. In fact, look at the slice of the variance pie. It's so small. Like all of the other slices are very solid, and then there's the positive or negative variance, and it's just been so small. It's almost non-existent. In fact, if we look at the relative variance, I'm at a negative of -34 EV. And that makes sense because when I'm seeing a lot of people looking at the points that they're getting off the bench, for example, people this week got like a Shar off the bench for like a goal and a clean sheet against Spurs. Other people last week, they're picking up a brace off the bench from Garnacho. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like I'm sitting here with like 0 points from 2 players off the bench. And these are actual playing players too. Like it's unreal. Like the negative variance that you can get from FPL is so frustrating. And it's so easy to just be down in the dumps and just be so like depressed and annoyed and just give up. But that's just not the type of person that I am. In fact, I look at some of my role models in the community where we've got FPL Salah, Let's Talk FPL, Praz FPL. What I noticed is that when even these players, when they have poor seasons and negative variance happening to them, what do? They try their best to still have a respectable rank. And that's what I love about them, is that they never give up. That's exactly what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try my best, try to focus on just winning my mini league, trying to have as good of a possible rank as I can. And so that's why I'm going to be taking that positive energy and just moving on to the next game week. Looking at game week 34, this is the graphic provided by Rob T FPL, where he looks at the expected goals for every single team in each fixture, as well as the clean sheet percentages. And I want to just turn your attention to the Arsenal fixtures and the Liverpool fixtures in game week 34. So Wolves are expected to put up 0.8 XGI, and Chelsea are expected to put up 1.08 XGI against Arsenal. Against Liverpool, Fulham are expected to put up 1.23 XGI, and Everton are expected to put up 1.03 XGI. Now, just to caveat, the Everton XGI, their finishing has been very, very below par this season, so I think this is probably one of the best chances for Liverpool to pick up a clean sheet this season, especially in the Merseyside derby, even though it's away from home. I just feel like I don't trust Everton to score. In terms of Arsenal, they have better defensive statistics than Liverpool, even though their fixtures look more difficult. And if I was on a free hit, I think just based on the data that I'm looking at, I'd want to be doubling up on the attack rather than doubling up on the defenses for either team. So in my opinion, if I was on free hit, I'd be going Odegaard and Saka, and then I'd be going Salah and then a differential Liverpool attacker. Diaz is probably going to be getting the most minutes over the double. Darwin has probably the highest ceiling, but Diego Jota is the best finisher and probably the best FPL pick. So if he's benched in Europa League, he would be my priority Liverpool second attacker to have. But moving on to my team specifically, I am very, very satisfied with what my team looks like. I do have some doubts in my team though. Haaland has picked up a knock in the Champions League against Real Madrid in the second leg. He was subbed off. That's something I do want to monitor. And the second is going to be Ryan Nuri, who got 0 minutes last game week. If we hear news that Haaland is out, then I would probably transfer him on to Darwin Nunez, who has a double game week in 34, or Alexander Isak, who has a double game week later on in the season, and he has good fixtures from now until then. If we hear news that Ryan Nuri is injured, I will likely sell him to Dan Burn, who has Crystal Palace this week, as well as Sheffield, Burnley, and a double game week in 37. But in my best case scenario, I wouldn't want to be transferring out either of those, and I want to be rolling my transfer because I do need some surgery in game week 35. If you do notice something really interesting on my team selection, that little green line, that's actually the bench boost. Like, what a joke of a graphic from FPL. They need to improve that going forward. But I really like the way that my team looks this week. I've got double Arsenal attack with Odegaard and Saka. Saka with the vice captaincy. Now that Arsenal are knocked out of the Champions League, I think that Odegaard and Saka are going to be nailed on for minutes. There's a chance that that Wolves fixture is going to feature some sort of rotation and Saka could potentially get an early sub. And that's exactly why I want Odegaard in my team. For the opportunity for a penalty towards the end of the match when the game gets stretched, I'm just happy to own Odegaard. And I think even on free hit, those would be the two Arsenal attackers that I will be going for. Even though Kai Havertz has stronger XGI than Odegaard, I still trust Odie for minutes over King Kai. And then I do have the Arsenal defense coverage with David Raya. I know he's not the most optimal goalie because he doesn't make saves. And if I had a magic wand to go back in time and go make some transfers, I probably would have put Gabriel in this position and then maybe a different keeper there. But it is what it is. So I'm happy to have at least the coverage of the 140% owned Arsenal defense, especially during the free hit. I'm expecting a lot of people to be covering up the Arsenal defense, maybe even going for two Arsenal defenders, even though I personally wouldn't do that. I think a lot of people will do that given how strong the defensive statistics are for Arsenal. So I'm just happy to have some coverage of that, but I'm still going to be cheering against Arsenal. Then I've got my double Bournemouth. I've got a Bournemouth defender as well as a Bournemouth striker. Now, they are 2 games away from home, but I still think there's going to be some returns in there for Solanke. Zibani, I'm going to be hoping for maybe a clean against Wolves. I mean, Ollie Watkins is definitely going to score versus Bournemouth, so I don't really think I'm getting many points from Zibani, but at least Zibani has a double game week. And then I've got James Tarkowski. Tarkowski has me very annoyed because I could have gone for somebody like Mikalenko who would have gotten me more points, but Tarkowski is due a goal. Like, he's put up around 5.0 XG and he has like maybe 1 goal or something. So I know Tarkowski has a return in him, and I'm just hoping that from now until game week 37, when I'm playing Tarkowski week in and week out, I'm hoping that I'll be able to pick up some cleans as well as a goal. Inshallah, hopefully the goal comes this week, and I'm doubling up on the Everton defense where I've got Pickford on my bench. We'll move on to my bench later. Then I've got Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk. I've only got 2 Liverpool options, and this is the downside of not having a chip to use in game week 35. Like, if I had a wild card in game week 35, I'd be able to have triple Liverpool, or if I had a free hit in game week 34, I'd be able to have triple Liverpool, but I don't. Because all the attackers are fit, the upside is low for all of them because the minutes will be managed and there will be rotation. And I do have to maximize the expected points from now until the end of the season and not just focus on what happens this game week. That could be something I regret, but I think I've got to hold on to somebody like Phil Foden. I don't think it's even worth transferring him out. I think his upside is huge, especially given the fact that Man City have been knocked out of the Champions League. They will be playing their starting 11 in the Premier League. So I don't think it's worth selling either Foden or Holland. And in terms of captaincy this week, I don't really think it's a debate. Mo Salah for me is the set and forget captain this week. I haven't even wavered once. Now, I know Mo Salah has been picking up a lot of returns recently. He's had a lot of blanks. Liverpool have been underperforming their XG massively as a team, which is impacting Salah from an XA perspective as well as an XG perspective where he's underperforming in both stats. But I just trust Mo Salah. Like, over the last 5 seasons, Salah has been my set and forget captain almost every single week. And whenever there's a doubt on the Egyptian king, just go to him, because you can gain a lot from Mo Salah. He is one of the most explosive players in FPL. He is a striker, but he's a midfielder in FPL. On the penalties, he's an analytical darling. And at the end of the day, I'm a Liverpool fan, so there's no doubt in my mind I would captain Mo Salah. I'm sure there are a few of you that are maybe even potentially Arsenal fans that are considering captaining Bukayo Saka or Odegaard or even like a Havertz as a differential. But let me tell you this. Salah is the Egyptian king for a reason, and I know that Arsenal were knocked out of the Champions League, so that means that the expected minutes of the star players will increase in the double game week, but I don't even think it's worth the risk. A lot of players in FPL have double Arsenal defense. You're gaining a lot just from owning double Arsenal attacks. So there's no need to even consider putting the captaincy armband on an Arsenal attacker. And in my opinion, I think Salah is clear. He's picked up more XGI per 90 than any of the Arsenal attackers, and I really just think Liverpool will do enough to get the job done, regardless of what happens on Thursday, whether Liverpool are through in Europe or not. I just trust Mo Salah to play 90 minutes in both games. Ramadan has come and gone. You can trust Mo Salah to pick up 90 minutes, and I just trust him with the armband. For me, it's not even a doubt. Moving on to my differential, Hakuna Mateta. I've got Mateta in my team. I'm happy that I brought him in. I know he picked up 1.0 XGI and he underperformed last week, but he's picking up the XGI and the manager does trust him. I trust Mateta. I'm happy to have some coverage of the Crystal Palace attack. They've been playing very good attacking football recently, so happy to own him. And I feel like for me, the most important thing that will determine whether I get a green arrow or not will be how well my singlers do. Singlers like Foden, Holland, and Palmer, because a lot of people that are going to be on free hit will be looking to bring in players that have double game weeks, and there is a chance that if Foden or Holland haul against Brighton, which is 100% possible, I can actually outscore free hitters. In fact, when I was watching Mo Salah over the last 4 or 5 weeks, he looked his most deadly and most devastating against Brighton. I think he had the most shots he's ever had in any single Premier League game against Brighton. So given the fact that Man City are playing against Brighton, and I know that Pep respects Roberto De Zerbi, so I'm not expecting a rotated 11 in this side at all, I cannot wait to go into this game week because there's a chance I can outscore free hitters. And I think this is one of the downsides of free hitting in one of the double game weeks where I think I have a genuine chance to actually outscore free hitters this week. So I'm excited to see how Foden and Holland can do. Holland's chasing the Golden Boot race, and Foden has just been one of the stars of the FPL season. I'm really happy to own them. I can't wait to see what their effective ownership will be. I'm expecting them both to be around 60%, maybe 70%, maybe even slightly lower than that this week. So that'll be one of the lowest effective ownerships for Holland. And for Foden, I'm expecting him to be around 30 or 40%. So I don't think we'll ever get their ownership lower ever again from now until the end of the season. So I can't wait to see what that's going to look like. And then moving on to my bench, I've got Jordan Pickford with a double game week, double Chelsea coming up against Arsenal, which looks kind of scary. And then I've got Aït-Nouri with a double game week. Now, how many points do you think I'm going to get from this bench boost? Try to calculate how many points you think I'm going to have on the bench and put it in the comment section down below. I'm curious to see what you actually think. I actually posted this exact question onto Twitter, and a majority of people seem to believe that I'll be getting between 10 to 15 points, and I think I'm probably going to get around the same. So if I start with Ryan Aït-Nouri, he has a double game week, but if he is fit, and he starts, then I'm hoping I'll probably get 1 point versus Arsenal and then 2 points versus Bournemouth. I think Gusto is a locked-in 1-pointer, and I think because of Palmer, he's had such great form, I think we can just expect him to get either a goal or an assist. So I think Palmer will probably be 5 points, Gusto is 1, Aït-Nouri is 3. That puts me at around 9 points. Moving on to Jordan Pickford, who has a double game week. Now, keepers are really interesting from a double game week sense because not only do they get clean sheet points, they also get the saves. Now, I think in the Liverpool fixture, he'll pick up 3, and I think in the Nottingham Forest fixture, earlier in the season, he picked up 8, but that's because he picked up a clean. Now, I'm not expecting him to get a clean and bonus, but I think he'll definitely pick up saves, and I think there's a chance that Everton will pick up a clean, and that would be a jackpot for me because I've got double Everton defense. But even if they don't and they concede, I don't think they'll concede that many. Even though Nottingham Forest have been in good form, I just trust Sean Dyche to keep it tight, especially when it's going to be 16th versus 17th place in the league, where the difference between them is just 1 point. It's a very, very important match for Everton. So I think owning Pickford is probably the right way to do it. And I think he'll probably pick up 3 points in that fixture. So in general, I think that's going to be 6 points from Pickford, 5 points from Palmer, 1 point from Gusto, and 3 points from Aït-Nouri. And I think that's enough for 15 points. And in my opinion, I think there's a very solid chance for me to pick up some bonus from a Palmer or a Pickford if they do end up getting in return, and that's where the upside is going to come from. I think Bench Boost is one of the most overrated chips. 15 points without a hit, that looks fine to me, and I'll be happily moving on to the next week. And I just feel like I'm just grateful that Palmer has picked up good form. There are 2 things I want to mention about Palmer and Gusto. I don't think there is a defender that I can look at that will outscore Gusto by a -8. And I don't think there is a midfield that will outscore Palmer by -8 this game week, because I think I'll want to own Palmer or Gusto from now until the end of the season anyway. So if I bring someone in, I'd want to sell them immediately anyway to bring back these players. So I don't think there's anyone that I trust to outscore them. Secondly, I remember the way that Chelsea played against Manchester City, and the way that Gusto got into positions on their counterattack and the way that Palmer's been playing, I just trust that they will be able to cause some damage to Arsenal on the counter. That's just what my hope is. My hope is relying on Palmer or Gusto to get something in this game in order to save my bench boost. And I think the way that Palmer's been playing, his form has been unbelievable. The goal that he scored last week against Everton where he passed into the far corner, that's just the sign of somebody that's just playing out of their skin. So I don't think I have the ability to bench Palmer, and I think owning somebody like him in a week where a lot of people are going to be using their free hit and bringing in as many double game weekers, they're going to forget how great Palmer has been playing, and they just take it for granted. So I'm happy to own him, and he's just one of the stars. And I just think if he can kill it this week, this will be something I'll never forget. I have not received much positive variance, so if the FPL gods want to come through in game week 34 in the double game week and give me 15 points on my bench, that would help me a lot. But I have a lot of confidence that I should be able to get that, so hopefully that works out for me. And I think in my best case scenario, I'll be able to roll the transfer this week, and I think it's very important because going into game week 35, I'm faced with one of the most difficult decisions. I do have Holland as my first striker, and I only have one actual second striker, and I've got to bring in one of Alexander Isak or Nicholas Jackson for Solanke in game week 35 onwards, and this decision will have one of the strongest impacts on how well I do from now until the end. So I don't want to take this decision lightly. Haha, that's like a teaser. That's what my next video is going to be about. But if I provided some value to you over the course of this video, please just drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all again soon. Peace.